Hi, everyone. Welcome to our module on assistive technology. This is one of my favorite subjects, and it helps us learn more about working with all students, including those with special needs. Assistive technology helps level out the playing field so that everybody can access what they need to access. So it is an equalizer, not necessarily something meant to give someone an advantage or help them cheat. I have heard general ed teachers who don't really understand special needs or disabilities that well refer to assistive technology, or AT as it's called. It helps them cheat. They say, well, it gives them an advantage, or it helps them just get through stuff. It doesn't really help them learn. Well, quite frankly, if you have a program like, say, Co-Writer, which is a predictive writing software. So if you are trying to type and it's trying to work with you, sort of like an advanced autocorrect. It's trying to help you form words, form sentences, spell, and those kinds of things. If you have dyslexia, and you're probably never going to be able to write at the level that another student will. It doesn't matter how much you practice. You have a disability. It's not going to change. You're not just going to suddenly wake up one day and go, oh, I don't have dyslexia anymore. It doesn't work that way. But a lot of folks who don't understand disabilities don't get that. And so they see some of these tools as some kind of form of crutch or cheating. We are not going to get into that as much as we want to explore the actual AT that's out there so that we're a little bit more familiar with it. And when a student comes to you who is using one of these tools, or maybe needs a better one, even if you're not in the special ed program, having this background is really useful. You never know when you're going to have a student coming into your room that relies on a certain form of AT for everyday learning and getting around. And so when that's there, and say something goes wrong, or the student runs into some kind of technical problem, you'll be there to help them figure it out when you have a little familiarity with it. Otherwise, it becomes frustrating. You might have to call tech support or the special ed teacher to come and help with this problem. And it's often great when you can sort out some of these simple issues on your own, and get them back into learning, get them back into the rest of the classroom with everyone else. So we are going to explore assistive tech from a couple of different angles. We are going to have a discussion about it, of course, first. So basically, find an app or device of your choice, any type of disability area that interests you. You've got your visual disabilities, or things like text-to-speech, speech-to-text, screen readers, screen magnifiers for those with low vision. There are actual physical magnifying units. There are things that are built into computers and tablets and things like that that can be used. There's all kinds of different text-to-speech and screen readers out there. So there's lots of choices. So that if that area interests you, those are the kinds of things you're going to look for. For hearing, you might be amplifiers, different types of hearing aids. There's some really cool hearing aids out now. Again, speech to text, to be able to, and text to speech sometimes as well, depending on the user, but certainly captioning videos, that's a big thing. If you're going to rely on video, then making sure that captions are available, and good captions. Sometimes the auto captions aren't the best. They're usually good enough for most situations if the audio quality is good, but you have to watch for that. Mobility disabilities, if you have somebody who uses a wheelchair, if you have someone with limited use of one of their limbs or hands or something like that, there are many, many tools out there to help in all those sorts of areas, to help them get around, to help them use their technology. The iPad has been a tremendous boon to many people with mobility disabilities, because now the touch screen has become much easier for them to be able to use, as opposed to a keyboard and a mouse, which of course requires a lot of fine motor skills. That's also true for kids too. That's why kids love the touch screen so much, because their fine motor skills aren't very well developed yet either. Then you've got your, of course, speech disabilities. And I include ESL in there not to insinuate that it's a disability that someone doesn't speak English, but it's some of those same tools that help people learn English as a second language can also help people learn it as a first language, or to develop speech skills that may be lagging behind. So, AAC devices, augmentative communication is the long term for that. Language learning tools. Duolingo is a wonderful piece of AT. We don't always think of it that way because we think of it as, oh, we're learning a new foreign language, but it's also great for people that are practicing the languages that they're working with now. And then, of course, you've got learning and cognitive disabilities, which can be everything from the communication type devices to co-writer, predictive writing, robots, really amazing for students with autism spectrum disorder. There's just all kinds of neat things. And it can be online books, social stories, variable speed recording videos to be played back over and over again for a student that struggles with understanding what they've heard the first time. They can go back through it over and over again. The program I'm using right now is Screencastify. That's an AT, if you want to think about that from a learning disabilities perspective. So you have lots and lots of choices. There are many links here, including to Patents, which is our Indiana AT lending library and PD source. It's a wonderful website. They have wonderful resources and actual humans that you can talk to and ask questions of. They have a huge library of different things that are available to any school, any teacher. So lots of stuff that you can look at. And so basically, we're going to share comments about what we found. So share your app, your device. What is it? What does it cost? What does it do? What are the benefits? Do you see this being difficult to use in the classroom, or do you find that this would be a really amazing thing that would be easy for everybody to get used to right away? So think about those things as we discuss, and then that will actually help you with your little case project. So we have a case study where you get to choose from a series of students who are in a class. We're doing some science. So this is an activity where everybody's up and moving around. They're manipulating things. They're doing a buoyancy activity. So if you're a high school teacher, you might want to think about this in terms of, say, a high school science lesson, which wouldn't be so different from this situation, but the standards that I'm citing are elementary standards. But they're doing the Cartesian diver thing. They're working with water. They're working with small things, and they're in groups. And there's a lot of activity going on. So you've got a few different students: Angela, Jimmy, Reginald, Lupita, Austin. They all have certain things that they use. They all have a certain disability, and so you can read about them and then figure out some stuff that might help them. You only have to choose one of these students, but do some research, figure out some things that might help that student and how they can successfully work through this science lab activity with the rest of the class. So when you're doing this, you'll want to have some resources you can reference. You don't necessarily have to cite them in APA style or anything, but have at least 3 references of links and articles and things that you've found that help you make these decisions, and recommendations. So you've got some guiding questions to think about, how this works within the structure of that science lesson, and what you can do to help your student succeed and access everything at the level that everyone else is. So this is going to be, a little bit longer of a paper, about maybe 2 to 3 pages. Shoot for around 750 to 1,000 words if you're a word counter. You can go longer if you need to, but do your best. Put some thought into it, and hopefully doing this research will be useful to you in exploring some of these things in more depth. It's not always easy to have all this stuff at our fingertips, especially in the online class. So this is a way for us to explore things that are interesting to us without necessarily having access to the physical devices in our hands. So have some fun.